The first time Officer James Hale walked into that courtroom, he carried himself like the world owed him respect. His uniform wasn't just fabric, it was armor. And the badge on his chest, he wore it like it placed him above everyone else. For years, James had grown used to people lowering their eyes when he spoke, afraid to challenge him. He believed rules bent when his pride was on the line. So when he pulled over a battered old pickup truck for a broken taillight one evening, James didn't see a hard-working single father trying to get his daughter home after soccer practice. He didn't see the exhaustion in the man's face or the military sticker faded on the bumper. He only saw an opportunity to assert authority. The father's name was Daniel Ross, ex-Army, widower, a man who had given most of his youth to service and now gave the rest to raising his 9-year-old daughter Emily. James wrote him ticket after ticket, piling on fines Daniel could barely afford. When Daniel tried to explain, James cut him off with cold words. Maybe if you served your country as well as you claim, you'd know how to follow the law. Those words stung deeper than the ticket. Daniel didn't argue. He just took Emily's hand and drove away in silence. But James wasn't done. A week later, Daniel received notice failure to pay, mandatory court appearance. The courtroom was packed the day their paths crossed again. James stood tall, his testimony crisp, almost rehearsed. He expected a quick ruling in his favor. But Daniel did something James never anticipated. He brought Emily. She sat in the front row, clutching her father's hand. Her eyes never left the judge, full of hope that someone would finally listen. When Daniel spoke, his voice was steady, but every word carried the weight of sacrifice. Your Honor, I don't deny the taillight was broken. I don't deny the tickets. But I ask you to look at me, not as a defendant but as a father. Every dollar I earn goes to making sure my little girl has food, books, a safe place to sleep. I served this country for 15 years, and I came back with scars you can't always see. All I ask for is fairness, not pity. Fairness? The courtroom was silent. For the first time in a long time, James felt something crack inside him. He had grown numb to faces, numb to stories, but Emily's small voice broke the silence. She tugged her father's sleeve and whispered, loud enough for everyone to hear, Daddy, are they mad at you because you take care of me? The judge blinked, visibly moved. The jury of onlookers shifted in their seats, and James, Officer Hale, the Untouchable badge, felt shame flush his skin. He had built a wall around his heart for years, convincing himself that authority equaled respect. But in that moment, he saw what true strength looked like. Not in a uniform, not in power, but in a father choosing kindness, sacrifice, and love, even when the world made it nearly impossible. The judge reduced Daniel's fines to a warning, citing his service and circumstances. The courtroom applauded softly. But James, he couldn't clap. He just stared at the little girl and her father, realizing that he, the man who thought himself above others, had been schooled in humanity by a veteran and his child. That night, James went home, and for the first time in years, looked at the picture of his own late father, a firefighter who had died saving strangers. He remembered his dad's words, "A badge doesn't make you untouchable. It makes you responsible." The next morning, James drove to Daniel's house, not as an officer but as a man. He offered to fix the broken taillight himself. Daniel hesitated, then nodded. Emily ran out with 2 glasses of lemonade. They worked side by side in silence until Daniel finally said, "People make mistakes. What matters is what they do after." James swallowed the lump in his throat. For the first time in years, he understood humility, and he felt something he hadn't in a long time. Respect not demanded, but earned. From then on, James changed the way he wore his badge. Not as armor, not as a weapon, but as a reminder of the responsibility to serve, not himself but others. And Daniel. He gained more than a fixed truck. He gained an unexpected ally, one who would quietly make sure no other father, no other veteran, no other child like Emily would face what they did that day. Because sometimes the strongest lessons in humanity don't come from authority or laws. They come from kindness, sacrifice, and the courage of everyday people. You know, sometimes life has a way of humbling us, and that's exactly what happened to Officer James Hale. When he walked out of that courtroom, his shoes still clicking against the marble floor, something inside him had shifted. The same man who once thought his badge made him untouchable now carried the heavy truth that he had almost broken a little girl's faith in justice. That night, he couldn't sleep. He kept hearing Emily's voice, "Daddy, are they mad at you because you take care of me?" It haunted him. Because deep down, James knew that little girl wasn't just speaking to her father. She was asking a question to the world. Is it wrong to be kind? Is it wrong to struggle, as long as you fight for love? The next morning, James stood outside Daniel's small, weathered house. He wasn't in uniform, no badge, no gun, just a man, holding a toolbox in his hands. For the first time in a long time, James wasn't Officer Hale, he was simply James. Daniel opened the door, cautious. Years of service had taught him to measure people by their actions, not their words. "What brings you here, officer?" he asked. James shook his head. "Just James today. I owe you an apology, and a taillight." Daniel studied him for a moment, then stepped aside. No lecture, no bitterness. Just a quiet nod that said, "All right, let's see who you really are." They worked in the driveway side by side. The sun beat down, the air smelled faintly of oil and rust. Emily sat on the porch, swinging her legs, sipping lemonade from a paper cup. Every so often she'd call out, "You're doing it wrong!" and laugh. And in that laughter, James felt something he hadn't felt in years. Humanity. It was simple. Two men, different uniforms, different scars, fixing a broken light. But it was more than that. It was healing. When they finished, Daniel wiped his hands on a rag and said quietly, "People make mistakes. What matters is what they do after."